My name is Nicolas Talbott. I am 26 years old, and I am suing the federal government over the transgender military ban. Before I had my light bulb moment and heard the word transgender for the first time, it was a very awkward period for me because I definitely knew that I was different. I understood, and kind of everybody else understood that I was different, but nobody really knew quite what was going on. I was usually classified as like the stereotypical tomboy, and everybody just kind of chalked it up to, oh, this is a phase. And then when I really heard the word transgender for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness this isn't a phase. I was actually really afraid that it was just a phase and that I would grow out of, realizing that I was actually supposed to be a boy. Just like I've known ever since I was a little kid that I was supposed to be a boy, I've known ever since I was a little kid that I wanted to be in the military. One of my earliest memories as a child is playing Army on the playground with my friends. Kind of as I got older, that would escalate into playing, military-style video games and watching all the military movies and playing paintball out in the woods. And I always knew that I had an interest in military service. I also had a huge amount of respect for our service members. A lot of that was because of the way I was raised and just the culture of the area where I lived. And as I was getting out of high school and going into college, I started to run my Google searches on, can you be transgender and enlist in the military? And at the time, the answer I was getting was just a short no. And then in 2016, the Obama administration announced that they would be allowing transgender people to serve in the military.
I'm announcing today that we're ending the ban on transgender Americans in the United States military. Effective immediately, transgender Americans may serve openly, and they can no longer be discharged or otherwise separated from the military just for being transgender.
So as soon as I got home, I started to get in touch with every recruiter I could find a phone number for. I decided to work with an Air Force National Guard recruiter located about 2 hours away from my house. And I worked with him for about a year and a half, trying to enlist into the Air Force National Guard. We hit a lot of ups and downs because, at first I tried to kind of jump in so quickly that places weren't really, kind of ready to continue to process my application. They went, okay, we've got this transgender guy, he's highly qualified, but we're really not sure what the next steps are with this new policy. The main hurdle that I was facing was getting the medical processing station to just kind of figure out how they wanted to conduct my physical exam. For anybody who's not super well versed in transgender healthcare, it's really not different from anybody else's kind of healthcare. So they just kind of put me on pause. And right around when I was supposed to take the next step, which was to go in for my medical evaluation, Trump administration came out with their tweets and announced that they would not be allowing transgender people to serve in the military in any capacity.
It's been a very difficult situation, and I think I'm doing a lot of people a favor by coming out and just saying it. As you know, it's been a very complicated issue for the military. It's been a very confusing issue for the military, and I think I'm doing the military a great favor.
And I just remember feeling so deflated and defeated. It was kind of like the wind had been knocked out of me because, this thing that I've been working so hard for had just been ripped away from me for no reason at all. It was like, this is something I've been working my entire life for. This was my dream. And a few days after that, I received a call from some lawyers out in California. And they said, hey, we want to hear your story, and we're really interested in taking on this case. Would you like to be a plaintiff? And I said, absolutely. Like, at this point, I've been sitting on the sidelines so long, I really need to get out there and do my part now. So I jumped right in and I signed on and I started to sue the federal government.
So our argument is that it violates the constitutional guarantees of equal protection to single out a group for exclusion from military service when they can otherwise meet all of the requirements that military service demands. This is the latest example in the long fight for equality in military service. And there are many other groups who have faced discrimination and exclusion from military service, including African Americans, including women, including gays and lesbians. And we've also seen the government advance exactly the same kinds of justifications in all those other contexts. Morale, unit cohesion, ability to meet the terms of military service. And throughout our history, each and every one of those have been opportunities for the military to become a better version of itself. And that, when the military looks like the society that it defends, that is when the military is the most effective.
The history really is consistent across our 200+ year history of the United States. Different groups have come to the military to seek full citizenship status. Essentially, you're saying to the nation that I am willing to take a life, or I am willing to give my own life for the ideals of this country. This has been an ongoing citizenship revolution, starting with blacks and moving all the way up to the present. And we will continue to see groups coming later who will seek full citizenship rights. The debate over accepting transgendered recruits fits into the broader scope of military inclusion. It's simply, in many ways, just another group that has particular kinds of demands and needs that they're asking the military to potentially facilitate. Within the military, there is still institutional racism, there's institutional sexism, there's institutional homophobia, and there's growing pains in all organizations, but the military is working on it. And as long as we have people in positions of power that recognize that those are problems, that we will begin to allow resources to deal with those problems.
I have had a lot of people say to me, Nick, why don't you just move to one of these other places that already allows transgender military service and serve in their military? And, my response to that is it's kind of missing the point. This is my home, this is my country, and I want to serve my country. I don't want to serve somebody else's. And it is so important to be able to have that kind of representation out there of people like me saying, no, we're not lesser because we're transgender. We are still just as qualified as everybody else, just as capable as everybody else. And when somebody like the President of the United States is standing there telling us that we're not as capable or not as qualified, I feel like it's my duty to absolutely stand up against that and say, no, you are wrong. And I think that's what really this is about, is, not just the military, but just as a general message that transgender people are just like everybody else.